discussing 3 different maps donated by Larry Holtzman, and who's here to discuss them with us.
Hello, my name is Larry Holtzman. I live in Brownsville, Texas. I collect antique maps and I'm an amateur historian. I've been collecting antique maps pretty much all my adult life. My maps are now at the historic Brownsville Museum. I'm going to talk about 3 maps that will take us on a Texas history journey. This 1702 map is a French map. Although most maps of Mexico and New Spain are Spanish, this is a French map, and it's an interesting map because it was printed in Paris, France. This 1702 map is of New Spain, including Mexico, by the famous cartographer to King Louis XIV, Nicolas de Feur. Now this is the first map in the world that shows the Mississippi River exactly where it is placed in geography, because the French were the first ones to have a map that showed the Mississippi accurately, because the Mississippi River, mouth of the Mississippi River, was discovered in 1682 by the French explorer La Salle. And he claimed the huge Mississippi River basin for France, for his King Louis XIV, and he called it Louisiana. And that later became, 121 years later, the Louisiana Purchase. Now, if we'll look, the Gulf of Mexico, La Salle returned to France and convinced the king to finance an expedition through the Gulf of Mexico to put a French settlement at the mouth of the Mississippi. In 1684, La Salle with 300 colonists came into the Gulf of Mexico. Instead of the mouth of the Mississippi, La Salle landed at Matagorda Bay, which he named, here you can see the Bay of St. Louis. He founded his French settlement there near present-day Victoria, Texas in 1685. Here you can see the location is marked on this map with a flag. This is the French flag that is one of the 6 flags over Texas. Now think about it. Why couldn't Texas be part of the Louisiana Purchase? Although short-lived, La Salle's was the first European settlement in Texas. The Spanish settlement of San Antonio was established 33 years later in 1718. Now we can see that how close the village of Cenis is. La Salle visited and traded with this Caddo Native American village of Cenis. It was a large village. The Cenis villagers greeted European visitors with cries of Tejas, meaning friend and ally. This was the introduction of a word that became Texas in Spanish, or Texas. La Salle's flagship La Belle sank in Matagorda Bay. The beams of this ship and artifacts were recovered by the Texas Historical Commission in 1997. The La Belle and its artifacts are at the Bullock, Texas State Historic Museum. Other museums around Texas also have artifacts from the La Belle. One last note, and here on this French map is a cartouche showing the mines of Santa Barbara. You will not see this on any other map. Certainly not a Spanish map. Many historians say that instead of faulty navigation, La Salle intended to land in Texas so he could be close to the mines with the intent of attacking the mines. After all, he had promised his king, as part of the deal to get the money for the settlement, that he would be attacking Spanish wealth. Now we're going to an 1835 map of Mexico. Now it's Mexico, which got its independence from Spain in 1821. In this map of Mexico of 1835, we can see the huge territory of Mexico at the time, from the Yucatan all the way to California, including Texas. President of Mexico and General of the Mexican Army, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, proudly ruled over this vast land. Texas was sparsely populated, so Mexico encouraged Americans to establish colonies like the Austin colony, shown on the map, led at the time by Stephen F. Austin. The requirement was that the colonists become good Mexican citizens and convert to Catholicism. Well, what could go wrong with that? This 1835 map would be the last to show Texas as part of Mexico. In the following year, Texas would get its hard-fought independence under the leadership of Sam Houston. Then in 1848, after the Mexican-American War, the United States would complete its manifest destiny with a territory that would become Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Colorado, and California. Now we go to an 1888 map of Fort Brown. Fort Brown was the first U.S. Army outpost in Texas, built in 1846 at the start of the Mexican-American War. The Palo Alto close by was the first battle of the Mexican-American War, fought by Zachary Taylor in marching down to relieve Fort Brown, which was being bombarded. The city of Brownsville, founded by businessman Charles Stillman, grew later alongside the fort. Here is a map of Fort Brown military outpost in 1888. The fort area was improved during the Civil War and later used as a military outpost until it was deactivated in 1945. Here you see on the reference list the buildings included officers' houses, barracks, a hospital, stables, and other buildings. Today, this is the location of Texas Southmost College and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. Many of the military buildings are still there and have been restored and are in use, such as the hospital, which is the administration building for Texas Southmost College. We can see that 2 blocks from Fort Brown on Washington Street is Charles Stillman's residence, built in 1848. It has been restored and is part of the Brownsville Historical Association. Thank you. I enjoy talking about maps. Maps to me are historic artifacts as well as works of art, and they're excellent for historic research. Very important, and I recommend that they be looked at more often. As you can see on the 1702 French map, there are items on the map that are not in narrative history. So it is important, and we have these maps here at the Historic Brownsville Museum. And Brownsville, I recommend you come visit. It's a Main Street city. The Central Business District has been honored by being accepted on the National Register of Historic Places. So come visit us here at the Historic Brownsville Museum in Brownsville, Texas. Thank you.